Sorry for the short intro today. There's only so many ways you can realistically film yourself walking into a room and then making a drink over and over again. But next video will have a bit of a longer intro. Anyway, a few days ago, I came across this tweet by Vit12. And at first, I vitriolically disagreed with what he was saying. The idea that disliking a level is always a bad thing seemed so stupid on the surface that it was almost not worth considering. I imagine that a lot of you would probably come to a similar conclusion about this tweet. And I also imagine that the first thing you think of when you think of dislikes is probably YouTube. At least that's the first thing I think about. But the more I kept thinking about it, the less I was certain of the dislike button's purpose in Geometry Dash. The dislike button is implemented in a very odd way that I haven't seen anywhere else. I mean, look at what happens when you dislike a level in GD. There isn't a separate dislike counter that displays the number of dislikes a level has. It just removes one like. I've never seen that before, and the more I think about it, the less sense it starts to make. So in today's video, I want to talk about the dislike button in Geometry Dash and why I think ultimately it might be harmful to the game. But first, I think we should start with YouTube. On YouTube, dislikes served a very obvious purpose. They were a super quick way to gauge roughly how good the general audience thought a video was. You could see the number of likes and the number of dislikes, but more importantly, you could see the ratio of likes to dislikes. If a video had a very poor like to dislike ratio, you could pretty safely assume that that video had something wrong with it, and most of the time you'd be correct. Now, reading the comments would always give you a better idea of what exactly was wrong, but the dislike number kind of primed you into being more critical of the video. This was a really good system, and while it could be abused with things like dislike mobs, I don't think that happened as much as YouTube would really want you to believe. For the most part, dislikes were being used on videos from large corporations or celebrities who made incredibly out-of-touch videos. Many people, including YouTube themselves, tried to argue that the comment section was a better way to gauge what the audience thought of a video. This is true largely, but only if the creator doesn't police their comment section in any way. It would be possible for a small or medium-sized YouTuber to completely delete any negative comments. This is something you're not likely to notice unless you're expressly checking for it. And most of the time when you are checking, it's because the video has a bad like to dislike ratio. If someone were to police their comment section like that though, you would only see positive comments. And if you read through the comments before watching the video, you would likely assume that it's a pretty good video. And then you'd be very frustrated when you finish the video and it'd end up being a complete waste of time. Dislikes on YouTube also serve a couple of other purposes, like letting you know if a tutorial is outdated or wrong, but that doesn't really matter when comparing the systems between GD and YouTube. So now how can we apply this philosophy of dislikes to GD? So if dislikes on YouTube are meant to act as a super quick gauge of a video's quality, then we'd probably expect them to serve a similar purpose in Geometry Dash, except they don't. Dislikes don't serve any purpose in GD and may even be harmful. Why they're even there in the first place is a little confusing. As I said at the beginning of this video, GD doesn't count the amount of dislikes a level has in the traditional way. Instead, leaving a dislike on a level just subtracts a like from that level. This doesn't really do anything to the level at all. There isn't some hidden algorithm that changes how often the level is shown to people based on the dislikes. Dislikes on their own don't make a level more or less likely to get rated, and not even the creator of the level can see how many dislikes their own level has. When YouTube removed the dislike button, it didn't really make a lot of sense because the creators of the videos could still see how many dislikes their video had. It only disabled the counter for the viewer. YouTube argued that they were trying to better the mental health of their creators by trying to get rid of quote-unquote dislike mobs, but if the creator can still see how many dislikes they got, this doesn't make any sense. However, Geometry Dash has the exact opposite problem. Dislikes are almost completely useless because nobody can see how many a level has, not even the creator. This is where I disagree with Vit12's tweet, the tweet that started this whole thing, because he says that disliking a level is just inherently bad. But there's no way for anyone besides probably RobTob to know how many dislikes a level has. This is literally the question of if a tree falls in the middle of the woods and no one is around to hear it, did it make a sound? If someone leaves a dislike on a level and not even the creator can see it, does it really affect them? Personally, I just don't think it does. I don't think you're being non-productive, and it's definitely not the same thing as just outright saying to someone that their level is bad. Also, if you're gonna say this about dislikes, you also have to say it about likes. They would also be just as non-productive and unhelpful as saying your level is good. But of course, likes aren't negative, so that doesn't get talked about as much. Actually, likes would serve a purpose of letting people know how good a level might be if it weren't for dislikes. If it weren't for dislikes, you'd be able to look at the ratio of likes to downloads, and if there are more likes than usual, then you could reasonably expect that level to be pretty good. However, because dislikes are implemented in the way that they are, it's impossible to know whether a level has been disliked a lot or just has a normal amount of likes. This makes dislikes actively harmful, but not in the way most people might think. I should say though that Vit's tweet was in response to another tweet complaining about dislike botting. That's a completely separate issue. People who dislike bot levels, even bad levels, are incredibly lame. I don't respect that at all. That's not a part of what I'm talking about. But it does bring up a good point that if a level gains more dislikes than likes, the game will start to show how many dislikes the level has. In reality though, the level has more dislikes than it's letting on because dislikes and likes work in the same way. If you like a level that has a bad dislike ratio, then it will just subtract one dislike. The reason I think this is a problem is because it only tells you whether a level has been dislike botted or if it's just a really bad level. Let's step back real quick and let's take a look at YouTube again and see why their system works so well. Specifically, I want to go over this section from an Implement video where he talks about why removing dislikes is a bad idea. And in this portion of the video, he talks about what different dislike ratios could mean for your video.
I've arranged video ratings into 7 tiers. If your video has 99% likes or more, you're probably looking at a pretty great video. 98 to 97% is not good enough to be the best, but still a good video. Most of the videos you watch on YouTube will probably fall between 96 and 94%, which indicates that the video is pretty average. At 93 to 90%, you're entering the territory where you start to notice that the video has an above average amount of dislikes. You'll usually see this on videos where the audience disagrees with the creator on 1 or 2 points in the video, but otherwise the video is pretty average. At 89 to 80%, you're starting to enter controversial territory. You'll typically see this rating on videos that deal with highly opinionated, hot-button issues, like politics or any review of The Last Jedi. If your ratings dip below 80%, then there's probably something seriously wrong with your video. This is a stage where the quantity of dislikes is so abnormal that people actually really start paying attention to it. And finally, if your video ratings drop below 50%, then there isn't just something wrong with your video, there's probably something wrong with you.
If you haven't seen M's video on dislikes, you should go watch it. It's pretty interesting, and I think he makes some good points. He's also just a fantastic YouTuber in his own right, so you really should go check him out. Okay, look, this guide probably can't be used as a direct translation to Geometry Dash. Still though, my point is that 99% of rated levels are going to have a positive like to dislike ratio, so the only way to ever get any information from the counter alone is if the ratio is less than 50%, which means that something has gone horribly wrong. The system is binary. Either it's near impossible to tell how good a level is from the like to dislike ratio, or it's so clear that a level is probably terrible, or at the very least extremely controversial. This makes dislikes nearly completely useless. Okay, so dislikes are completely useless. What do we do about that? GD could go the route of every single social media platform out there and remove dislikes entirely, but I really don't think that's the best idea. Most social media platforms without an express dislike button tend to find workarounds. When people are upset, they want to express that they're upset, and trying to stop them from expressing their emotions tends to lead to more toxicity rather than less. I mean, 4chan is the only social media platform I can think of with no likes or dislikes, and that's one of the worst ones that there are. And I don't think we want to make GD like 4chan. Not to say that I ever think it would get to that point, but just, you know, let's avoid that if we can. Because I would believe that without a dislike button, many more people would be inclined to comment their frustrations with certain levels. While in an ideal world, these frustrations would be communicated in a polite and constructive way, I think you can agree with me that that's just not likely to happen. I'd want to see dislikes serve a purpose close to their purpose on YouTube before they were removed. I think having a very quick way to generally gauge a level's quality is a good thing, and it's something we don't really have in the game at the moment. The GD comment section on most levels is not what I would call relevant most of the time. It also tends to have people who are very radical with their opinions. The same goes for YouTube too, honestly, and most other social media platforms. People are more likely to leave a like or a dislike than a comment. And so I think most of the time, likes make for a better general indicator of the level's quality. Dislikes being removed entirely might also be a positive change because you could somewhat determine a level quality based on the like to download ratio. Anything is honestly probably better than the system we have now. It feels like Rob just wanted to please everybody by having dislikes, but also making them not really mean anything and be completely invisible, which really just made them practically useless. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was maybe a little shorter than the previous ones, but I hope that the writing was maybe a little bit better, a bit more concise, a bit less tangentially. That's not a word, but you know. I have a little bit of learning disability when it comes to writing, so hopefully this doesn't feel too all over the place. I'm trying to get a little bit more refined, you know. I haven't been doing this for very long. I'm also working on another video in the meantime that was actually supposed to come out first, but I've been having trouble writing that video, so it might be a little bit before that one. But if you want to see more, maybe you just like the content, I don't know why you're here, hit the like, hit the subscribe, do all the typical YouTuber things. I'm sorry that I just have Sprite today, and sorry that the intro was maybe a little bit shorter. I am running out of alcohol, and alcohol is expensive. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's slightly shorter video, and I will see you guys soon for the next one. Bye-bye.